So the entirety of the Wheel of Time season 3 has been released. We've all had a chance to see it. We've all had a chance to think about what are the ramifications of it. And the first thing that came to my mind after seeing Wheel of Time season 3 was, wait a minute, all that stuff in the recap for season 2, am I on crazy pills? I don't think any of that happened, or at least we didn't see it. So did we start out with a montage of a bunch of stuff that we never saw? Is that how it appeared to you, Rusty, or am I wrong on this? Because I don't remember seeing half of that stuff in the recap.
Yeah, if you go back and actually watch the season, it doesn't look like there's that much adventure and action built in as the recap. It seems like they filled in a lot of missing storyline with what could have happened to build up season three. I'm not as as big into the how much the show goes off of the truth of the books because I never really read the books as much as you and Lucas did. But off of just the TV shows, I remember watching the first and second season. I go in to watch the third season, and yeah, I don't know if it was. It almost seemed like it was almost two different shows.
It's almost like there are a bunch of episodes that they shot that they didn't release that are going to get released someday, or all they did was film all of that stuff so they could do a big recap. And if they can do that, then the question I have is, why not flesh them out a little bit? If you went to all the trouble of casting, costuming, putting everybody on location to do these montages, like, would it have been that much extra work to actually just make more than 8 episodes? I wonder if there are some hard constraints that are being put on the team, that they're being told they can only make a certain amount of episodes, yet they're actually filming and doing more stuff than what they had licensed to do. I wonder if there's some of this that's happening in the background.
Well, they could have also made some changes to the storyline going into season 3, and remember, I couldn't make it through season 2.
I mean, it was brutal. Season 2 was tough. I don't know what to say. That was a hard one. I mean, that almost turned me off completely. I was like, this is just not that good.
I still haven't finished it, but I did start season 3 per your suggestion, and I made it as far as the beginning of episode 5, Tel'aran'rhiod. But yeah,
Well,
it's brutal, and it's so different than the books.
I was very impressed with season 3.
I know, right? Didn't I say that? I was like, oh, season 3 is actually decent, you know?
Oh, it was.
Okay.
I mean, there are departures from the storyline, but even jumping in on season 3 and going through that montage at the first, my first thought as I was watching it was, Wheel of Time has this problem that is a bonus when you're reading it, of this massive set of characters. And that is daunting whenever you first step in the books, but the books can repeat themselves over and over and over. They have so many leitmotifs for the characters, and but even reading them several times, you still discover subplots and make connections with characters that you didn't see before. It was difficult, even with the reduction of side characters through season 3. But they made a lot of changes. Even Matt doesn't go to Ruidion. Okay, fine. I don't know why he ever needed to go to Ruidion.
Well, because the
red
door was there.
but the Redstone door doesn't need to be there. There are other caches of ter'angreals in the world. So I thought it actually was a nice streamlining to take him out of Ruidion to focus on
You know
Rand
what?
and Ruidion.
You know what? On that front, I blame Harriet, honestly. I think that Robert Jordan needed a better editor, and a better editor would have, and beta readers would have given him some feedback, and was like, this, like, some of the things you're doing don't make a whole lot of sense. You should try to rework this. I don't think he was getting that kind of feedback.
Thanks for giving me a guffaw when you said I blame Harriet. He wrote those books over years and years. It's one thing to be sort of blazing through uncharted territory and building the arc of these stories, but who knows how much that he had planned out. I know he had extensive notes on the final books that that Brandon Sanderson finished after he died. But I think this is this is a bonus when it comes to I don't know, television shows or movies that are spun out of great fantasy series like these. They don't have to be they don't have to adhere to every detail of the original stories. I thought whenever Peter, what's his name, the Hobbit from New Zealand, whenever he made Lord of the Rings,
Dinklage? Is that
yeah,
it? Yeah.
no, not Peter Dinklage, the one before, the man with the carrot.
Wait, what?
Pete Jackson.
Lord of the Rings. Come on, help me out here.
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, but he's not a dwarf. I got turned to the side because you said Hobbit. I thought you were talking about the actor that played it. Okay.
I mean, he's kind of a hobbit. He's not small, but he's very
well. You still haven't seen Meet the Feebles, so you don't really know who Peter Jackson is.
Well, you saw the carrot in that town just east of the Shire.
Yes. He munched on the carrot on his cameo, which was not the right, whatever. We digress. But like removing Tom Bombadil from those movies, I thought was a great choice because it wasn't that necessary. There were things that were done here that I thought were brilliant. And I also was watching this, and it comes at you so quickly. There are also the foreshadowing in the books of some of the characters who you're given slight details of, especially the Forsaken. Is some of that mystery or mystique is taken away in the show too, because you see exactly who the Forsaken are and when they're meeting together. But
I think the bad guys always make a show, and in this show, some of the bad guys seem pretty powerful and pretty badass. I mean, when the Forsaken gets ripped apart and all of his innards are all over the place, it's like, wow, that's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah, there's both the violence that is gory and in other places kind of real, like whenever Matt's mother is burned at the stake. There's also, I was interested to see the sexual elements sort of start to flower in these, because there's a lot of flirtation and some I don't know, sexual digression that goes on in the original series, but it's delicately introduced.
It's prudish in the original
everybody in season 3. It's just a free. I was like, oh my god. Season 3, yes, it's definitely liberated and a lot more. I mean, I didn't think First Sisters had to be. Well, I think it's defined a little bit differently in the TV series than it is.
Yeah, but the implication was always there in the book, but I felt like that was no-go territory. And maybe it wasn't Harriet that. I think Harriet might have been interested in those aspects of it, but Tor Publishing was like, nobody will read it. And so
I don't think they were right about that.
It was a different time. It was a very different time. But the serious aspect of it too was the timeline of the books. That when Robert Jordan starts writing The Wheel of Time, and he has openly said in interviews that it was a post-apocalyptic concept that came out of the Cold War between Russia and the United States. And so to see also that this adaptation is coming around as we begin to admit of the Cold War and sort of step into a hot war with the United States and Russia, it's very interesting to see, this is something that has grabbed the attention of Americans, of producers, of our TV, whatever, that has grabbed attention, and they are, I don't know, treating both violence and politics, and there's the underlying narrative, and how does this whole episode close out, but with a consideration of the way of the leaf and peace versus violence, and Perrin sort of sacrificing himself. So that all has been brought to the fore at this point. I thought very fascinating.
So one of the most powerful scenes that I remember from all of the Wheel of Time, we actually get in season 3, which is when they drill a hole in the Dark One's prison.
Yes.
So when he enters Ruidian and he goes in to see his past so that he has a sense of where the Aiel came from, he can see it through the eyes of his people. He's becoming the Kara Karn, and he sees this scene that relives this point in time where they actually free the Dark One. They drill a hole into his prison, and I felt like a little let down because all we see is some black cracks in the sky and we don't see anything really. It's like, they stopped right at the point where I was like, what? This thing is falling out of the sky. We've got this sphere. It's somehow, up in the sky. Like, they talk a lot about the technology that existed in the Age of Legends, which is, I don't know, just like some mild bit forward from where we are right now. They've got grab cars and all this kind of sci-fi stuff. So, the Wheel of Time is really a science fiction book because everything that exists, all these magical elements, they're all utilizing the one power, but the one power is used as technology. And so it's this weird mash of science fiction and fantasy, and they're living in this post-apocalyptic world, and where in the very technological past, the Dark One is freed because they're trying to find a power that is more egalitarian, that both men and women can use equally. There's all of this kind of talk about how grand this is going to be and how great it's going to be, and whether the Forsaken really had this sense of what they were really doing, or whether they were kind of duped into it. But regardless of if they were duped into it, these individuals who have aligned with the Dark One have embraced it and become very malevolent. And so we don't really get the payoff, unfortunately. I felt I was a bit let down. I was like, show the next bit, and it didn't show it. So maybe we'll get a flashback, but I doubt it. I think that's all we're going to get on seeing the Dark One sort of emerge from reality.
I loved that part. I was totally satisfied, and just to me, again, it's interesting to see that Rand is an ancestor of a servant to Mirren, who would become Lanfear, and that's so evident in this flashback. When you read this whole series of Walking Through the Terran in the books, it's a lot more difficult to understand what's going on and who these characters are that he's whose lives he's stepping into. But you can see the family resemblance and sort of the digression of progress, or the sort of the collapse of the world as he's walking back through his ancestors. And so I loved that portion. And I wasn't
Rusty,
too.
as somebody who didn't read the books, did it make sense what was happening there? Did it felt like it drove home that was what was occurring there? Do you feel like that narrative came through? Did it mean something to somebody who hasn't read the books?
I don't know, to me, if it came through as impactful from somebody who doesn't read the books, just trying to kind of piece it together, the storyline, because I don't know, I don't really have like a foretelling of what should have happened or what's going to happen based off of the books, like you guys do going into the show and what to expect. And so for me, it just kind of put the story together and flowed. It did flow nicely. I did enjoy it, but it may not have made as much of an impact knowing the backstory of everything.
I noticed you said foretelling there. That's a
Nice.
little much of Lida.
I agree with Lucas and on the scene with the big orb and the freeing of the Dark One from his prison, but I took a different take on it too. I believe in that scene, it wasn't, Rand's ancestor wasn't her servant, but that was Louis Theron, right? And that was my take on it. That was actually Louis Theron in the orb the day before, or the day that the Dark One was let free from his prison. But and for me, that connected the dots about why he would be born from the Aiel and not of them, like of the same blood, so that he could have that genetic memory reawakened in Ruidian, but raised by others, so he would have different character. Do you think I got that wrong?
Yeah, in the books, there's a lot about his ancestor who was sort of like the chief butler or whatever in the house of Mirren, or Lanfear, and how also they were scorned afterwards because Lanfear had championed along with Lews Therin, who we don't see. Lews Therin is up in the boar in the sky that's trying to tap this one power. So we don't actually see him, and that is Rand. That's also an interesting aspect about sort of maybe a love triangle that existed then, Lanfear's love triangle, because we hear so much about Rand's love triangle, but with Lanfear and Ilyena over and over in Rand's head.
She loved Louis Theron, and maybe she loved, and they really love the love triangles in this TV adaptation, don't they? It's
oh yes,
yeah.
I mean, and again, this is I thought it was interesting that you see more connections in the love triangles, because again, I always thought that the implication between sister wives and so much of the underpinning of like the giggling asidedness of the Wheel of Time characters is belied this what was actually going on underneath the sheets.
Okay, now wait. Now getting to the giggly part. So we have this really awesome scene. I think for me made season 3 just made me want to keep watching. Was when they're in the bar, the brothel or whatever in Tanchico, and Tom Maryland's playing his guitar, and Elaine jumps up on the table and they start singing. I thought, here's the breath of fresh air that we needed in this series. Here's some of the, I don't know, the fun that's been missing from the books. Like the books are fun. Like they have a lot of good scenes. They have points that kind of make you laugh or really connect with the characters. And I felt like a lot of that was kind of missing. And so in this season, we have Matt saying things like cheeky indeed. It's like he's got these moments that they're funny for Matt. And then we also have Elaine sort of breaking out of her shell, connecting with Tom Maryland as a character that is really important. And I felt like we didn't really see that much in the first 2 seasons, but now he's sort of here playing guitar and being, the court bard that we know that he is. And I loved that scene. I thought all of Tanchico was just awesome.
I totally agree. And there's a part of me that's groaning whenever Elaine steps on the stage, but I do that with so many of the characters throughout the book, and that's part of why I love them. And there's been a restraint in the past with the characters, with the script writers, that they've wanted to be serious, like this is Days of Our Lives of 2025. No, I want Saved by the Bell, and it did turn in that direction. Matt was certainly is my favorite character in the books, and shown in this season 3. I don't know why they gave Perrin a wife. Whenever he starts brooding with Faile about his previous wife and that whole narrative, like that had me rolling my eyes. Maybe the weakest point of the show.
I couldn't agree more with Perrin. It's like, in fact, that was the first episode. It's like, what? Perrin? Wife? What? Murdered? Or not murdered, accidentally killed by your own hand? It's like, this completely changes the characters, a central character, and gives them an entirely new motivation. And I mean, honestly, I was offended on behalf of Robert Jordan. I figured he's spinning in his grave right now. But I think they have redeemed themselves with season 3, as if you set it aside from the books and look at it as its own creation. But yeah, the Perrin thing, it's a weird arc.
Yeah, when he was telling Faile about that, I was like counseling Perrin. I said, don't talk about previous relationships. What are you kidding me? Starting off on the wrong foot.
Yes.
But maybe he gets that eventually. Maybe that's part of the arc of him embracing the way of the leaf, and this notion of violence begets violence. And the way of the leaf is with the Tuatha Mier. To me, that's the the hub of the wheel of time. Really is this idea behind the Athon Mier, the Aiel. What was the magic that bound the previous peaceful world together before technology was twisted in their hand? And there's so much, I also loved getting the song of the gardeners when they were working in the field, because that is something that is repeated, over and over with the Tuatha Mier, and alluded to, although they don't understand it, by the Aiel. So it was nice to finally hear that.
Are you?
You know,
The singing in this entire season was great. So we had the song that I talked about before. We've got the song of the Tuathon. We have the song of the people of the Two Rivers that sing about Manetheren. It's almost a musical this season.
that I loved the Manetheren song. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'm not still not entirely pleased with the casting choices, or the depictions of all the creatures and characters. Like Loyal, it's almost like I was thinking about Lord of the Rings too. It's like when he's sitting right next to Perrin, they're about the same size, but but the way they shoot the scene when they're walking into the Two Rivers through the Manetheren Gateway, it's like that perspective thing you do with Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson. It's like, oh yes, Loyal is supposed to be as big as a Trolloc, but not one. And I don't know. I'm just not sure I'm happy with the way that was conveyed. And then some of the other characters, I think they could have done better with casting. But
the biggest departure from the books that I could not believe was what happens with Loyal in the Ways.
Yes, that is 100% not the way this is supposed to be. You do not destroy the ways. This is not right.
Well, he does destroy the ways, and they're collapsing anyways, but he's not bound inside of them. So I fully expect Loyal
Well,
to.
no, hold on. He's supposed to take the leaf from inside and lock it with the two leaves. Like that's how it did it. I mean, like, right? I don't remember them destroying the ways and like.
He does destroy the Waygate, because he actually breaks the leaf, but he didn't have to go inside the ways to close the Waygate in the books. Like they go to the Waygate, and because he doesn't have the leaf with him, the leaf is the key to open the gate.
This is them tossing a character that's too problematic. They're just not. They don't know how to like continue to work him into the seasons of what they're planning on doing. They're just like, we got to get rid of this character.
Well, to complete the compliment sandwich on the characters, I think they did a pretty good job with the Trollocs. Those things are. I was trying to imagine what something would look like, where some of them are half wolf, half man, some of them are half bird, half man. But seeing what they did with it in the show, I'm like, okay.
You know what though? They completely failed on the Myrddraal. Where are the Myrddraal? They're not around. This is completely unacceptable.
True.
I thought Padan Fain was also, he was great. Very donkey. He reminded me a lot of Pinocchio.
He was great until he capitulated. There's no way. There's no way Padan Fain would never do that. That is so out of character. I was like, this is not how this would ever go.
Well, again, I thought that was an interesting change in, and what did he do? He talked to the enemy. He saved his people by talking to the enemy. I was like, oh, is this Trump and Putin? Is this a message?
No, this is where Padan Fain gets crucified and his innards get strung up from the Dark One, because there's no way they're going to accept that. It's like, you had them. You could have destroyed them and you backed off. No way.
Well, he does get summoned to Shale Ghul to be flayed by the Dark One. So that's coming up for him.
Oh, I see. So this is the setup for that. So
yeah, his betrayal will be paid back. It's also that, like, we have the imminent character coming of the Moradin. Is it Moradin the Myrddraal?
Yes.
It must be Ravine. I've never. That's been so hard to pin down who that actually is. I know it's hinted at. I could maybe look up cheats to that interpretation, but I've always wondered which of the Forsaken is resurrected as Moradin, and it must be Ravine.
That's what I was thinking, Ravine.
Well, they're setting that up then, right?
Yes, for sure. The other character that I thought was the best twist was Leandrin. Leandrin is such a much more complex. Many of the dark, or the those who have turned away from the light, those characters are there's a lot more giving us compassion or sympathy for their choices. And Leandrin, top of the list. She was very Vanity Fair, sort of fallen angel. She had a hard life. I understand her a lot more now.
So a scene that I thought visually striking, very well done as far as TV and movie goes, is the turning of the wheel and seeing how many different lives that Moiraine is watching, where they show the camera flipping around and around. I thought that was like very, very well done visually. I really loved how they did that scene.
Yeah, you could. I agree. And when they're leaving Meridian, when Rand and Moiraine were leaving, there's this look that they pass, and it's like, because in some of those scenes where she's living all those alternate lives, some of them she's getting stabbed, some of them she's getting her head cut off, and some of them she's doing the nasty with Rand. I thought, but it was happening so fast you can't really tell, or maybe again.
That certainly did happen. Possibilities were flipping through her mind. I also thought it interesting that instead of the redstone drawer and pulling Lanfear into the redstone door, they take the page out of sheathing the sword. There's the Rand kills Samael, maybe, I forget which of the Forsaken in the books, with the move that Lan teaches him of sheathing the sword, having them bury the sword in their body, so they're so you open up a chance for a death blow, and that's what they do with Moiraine and Lanfear. So it was good to see that, although I surely hope that somehow they get sucked into the land of the Elfin and the Eelfin, and we get that sort of rescue coming up.
Okay, let's go there for a second, because I think that's worth talking about. So I was very excited that I saw that coming, that was about to happen. It's like Matt's, wherever he was, I think he's into Anchigo, and he finds the door, which is a little weird, but anyway.
He finds his hat. I haven't seen his hat yet.
Well, he's supposed to get the hat as he came back, I think, but so he falls through the door, and they go into this Fey world, and I think a thing that's cool about season 3 is you see the scope of what's really going on here. You have in the Wheel of Time multiple planes of existence. You have Tel'aran'rhiod, which is the world of dreams, which is connected to the world, but then you have these extra dimensional worlds. So you have these other places. So the ways are part of that. It's like this dimension, or it's this thing that exists adjacent to the real world. And then you have the world of the Aelfin and the Eelfin, which is again adjacent and sort of their, I don't know, this outside influence on the world, where things that they're doing are influencing what's happening with the turning of the wheel. I thought that all of this expansion of how big the scope of what's going on in the Wheel of Time was really driven home in this season, and I was excited for this part, but I was somewhat let down, because they're supposed to have quite the adventure in this world. There's supposed to be a whole sequence that happens, and there's multiple of these characters, where in this there's just one, and it's very transactional. It's almost like what's happening here isn't driven home of like how leave taking was so important, and like the elements and what they were supposed to bring with, and how these bargains are supposed to be struck. I don't know. It's like some of that just didn't get driven home enough, and it just felt like he falls through this thing, has this weird little side adventure, comes back, and now he's hanged. I don't know. It lost a little of the power. Although I was really excited to see it, I wanted to see it, and again, like the costume didn't just quite hit it for me because it seemed like a guy in a weird costume, and I didn't get the sense of fear that there was this alien thing that wanted to feed off the emotions of a human, and like they hung him because they wanted to feel that him, dying.
Well, you have to wait for the montage for season 4 for all of that.
That's right. They're going to just spin through it and be like, this is what really happened to Matt.
That's what I was going to ask, to see if you guys have heard anything about them continuing on to season 4 of the show, or are you guys, interested in watching a season 4 and kind of getting brought back into the show? Because most of you guys were not really interested in season 1 and 2.
No, I'm for sure interested in a season 4, and I think given what kind of response they're getting on Amazon Prime, I think that they're probably going to do another one. I think it's like number 3 or number 2 show on Prime right now.
I'm definitely interested in season 4, and honestly, I'm probably going to go back and watch seasons 1 and 2 in the wake of season 3.
Well, and then in the books, this is where it starts getting good. I mean, they're at book 4 right here, so it's like book 4, 5, 6, 7. That's like the highlight of the books until you get to where Sanderson takes up the helm. We get into this dark winter of, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, or whatever that is. This like gets really dry and sparse for a long time.
Winter's part.
Yeah, the winter of braid twitching and skirt ruffling and moving around in the mud. I was pretty much almost exactly, Lucas, like with I'm definitely going to watch season 4 after I watch the rest of season 3. I'm only on episode 5 right now, but I had given up on it 2 or 3 episodes into season 2. Grant insisted that I watch the first 10 minutes of season 3, episode 1. And yeah, I think it's worth a rewatch in context. And I'm definitely looking forward to season 4 as well.
Nynaeve, by the way, all of that braid twitching, and I think some of the onerous books that are coming, Crown of Swords and the Lord of Chaos, in which Rand.
Wait a minute, you didn't like Lord of Chaos? That's
I love them, but I enjoy them for where Perrin and Matt are, and Elaine and Nynaeve. Luke and Vala's traveling show. My pretty Matt.
I think they're going to skip that. Honestly, I don't think.
They can't.
You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. There's no way.
He's going to get Tom Bombadil treatment.
Yep, that's getting chopped. That's
whatever. After the fun of the taverns, I think they really enjoyed that. You cannot skip Luke and Vala's
travel. It's too much of a side quest, man. There's no way. Like, they've only got 8 episodes. They're gonna try and speed run this thing. They know that they have limited time. They're gonna try and get through this as quick as they can. So expect more of these fast forward recaps.
Really, I'm thinking. I mean, are they going to close it up with season 4? I figured this.
No, but I think that they look at the time gaps, man. Like, they took 3 years between season 2 and season 3. It's hard to hold an audience if you're not making these things faster, and for not having a renewal like straight out of the gate on season 3. That means they're not shooting. That's tough, man. That means we're not going to actually see the next season for like a significant amount of time. And if you're Rafe Judkins, who's the showrunner, you've got to be thinking like, I don't know if I'm actually going to get another bite at this apple. He's going to try and pack in as much as he can, and he's going to start just like coming in there with the sword and like chopping out huge sections of unworthy story.
Oh, stop it. And the true dramatic irony now that I'm hooked in season 3 is, of course, experiencing the long wait between books that I did for 15 years. So, yay, I've got that back to look forward to.
Yeah, I, too, discovered Wheel of Time. I think it was around the time of the Fires of Heaven? No, Lord of Chaos. Lord of Chaos or Crown of Swords, somewhere late 90s. And yeah, the waits were terrible.
Surpassed, of course, by George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire.
Which will never come out, by the
way. Yeah, which will never, ever be finished.
Expect it not. He's too busy making TV series. He's firmly back into his roots as a TV writer.
Yeah, but going back again to the, not George Martin, Robert Jordan, or Robert Aligny Jr. Um, died while he was writing this series, and he was so devoted to it that he wrote extensive notes and even found his replacement author to finish out the series. So I don't know how many fantasy epic fantasy sagas have had that much devotion poured into them. But it's a beautiful world, and I'm glad to see that some of the visualizations of this are better than were in my head when I was watching the book, and or when I was reading the books. And so having the visualizations of the I'm a little like let down with the sort of waving light behind the channeling, and the fact that they're not conveying the separation of the powers. And it's also interesting that you brought up this talk about the one power, and the conversation that occurred between Rand and, was it Moraine, whenever he said control the power, or anyway, there's less nuance that is devoted to the five parts of weaving, and you don't get to see as much of that. But other than that, like seeing some of these worlds, seeing the cities, the taverns, that was more, I don't know, grisly and real. Even the gore, I don't like a lot of gore in my television. I don't mind it here because it's very much set in a world of fantasy for me. So I don't know. It's gonna be
Speaking of characters that I think they absolutely nailed, I have really found myself liking the actor that portrays Rand al'Thor. I think, at the beginning I was a little not sure that they had found the right actor, but as I see him do multiple different of the major scenes that were required for season 3, I am thinking they've actually nailed it, and I can't wait to see some of the madness start to creep in as he has to, keep channeling Saidin, and he starts to have more of the Dark One sort of, color his thinking, and he starts to have some of that madness creep in as he struggles with that. And we know that there's light on the other side of that tunnel, but there is this dark trough where, as he becomes, more and more traumatized by stuff that's going to happen. And we are definitely going to get those dramatic, traumatizing scenes in the next season if they get to make it, where the red capture him and put him in the box. I mean, that is sort of the thing that sparks off the whole sequence of him mistrusting the Aes Sedai and not wanting anything to do with them, and sort of going down a path where he almost goes to the shadow. So if we see that in the next season, I will be very happy, because I can see how this actor is going to be able to give us a performance that I think is worthy of that storyline.
As you were saying the character that you thought that was best, I was expecting you to say Elida. I really love the voice, everything about Elida. She's quite evil, and
The tough thing is she had such a iconic role in a different TV series that I watched that it's hard for me to see her again. It's like, I know how good of an actor is. I love who she is as an actress, but like, she will always be that character to me, and it's hard to see her as anything else than here she is now taking on this role. And I don't know, it's hard. So she's doing great, but yeah, it's not the first pick, but only because of my own experiences with
The
watching it.
Expanse? Or
Yes,
something else. Okay, yeah.
The Expanse.
You're in-
Yeah.
that's what y'all get for cheating on the Wheel of Time. You should only watch one
Up first.
one
Well,
show.
see, they shouldn't have recast anybody that had ever been in a previous show. Period.
We should have had Kate Blanchett as Moraine. That would have been the best. Just kidding. Anything else we want to anything else that y'all wanted to throw on the table for series 3 of the Wheel of Time, or do we hit all our points?
I think we got it. Overall, enjoyed it. Overall, I recommend the watch. If you are a fan, if you fell out of it from season 2 and you thought you'd never come back to it, I'd say go back to it, because
Yeah.
season 3, it starts out with a bang. You'll see a bunch of stuff that you wished you had seen in season 2, and you'll say, why didn't they do all of this stuff? And for whatever reason, if you didn't like season 2, skip it. Don't even watch it. Just jump right in on season 3, and I think you'll have a good time.
I concur. I was not happy I dropped out of the series on season 2, but I'm back now and I'm looking forward. I've been converted and I'm on board. So well said, Grant.
I agree also, and I'll just throw one more thing as I was thinking about everything. Alana, I really like what they did with Alana. Her relationship in the future with Rand is problematic, but I understood it a lot more, and I hadn't seen her in such a positive light. But what she did for Emmons Field is pretty great here in season 3. So I like that addition also. So anyway, I had a blast. I really enjoyed it. I can't believe now I'm going to be stuck waiting for 2 years for season 4. Rusty, any takeaways you want to leave us with on it?
No, I just agree with you guys that it's worth the watch for those that are fans of Robert Jordan, or fans just wanting to watch a good show. You don't have to have read the books to actually enjoy the show and to get into it. And I think that as somebody that did not read the books and did enjoy the show, that I am looking forward to how it continues, and I do like the story that's built around it. And if I had more time and was more inclined, I might actually be interested in trying to go back and read some of these books and get into the story more, because I do see it as intriguing. But no, I do enjoy watching books like this come to a new life in the show, and I kind of think that, especially with the Wheel of Time, it's almost better in the show to kind of go at your own take and kind of go at a different line of stories. Like, you can have some of the same characters, but the Wheel of Time, from my perspective, has always been like the circle of time, and how everything kind of comes back on itself, and having a secondary take on that circle, is always a good thing.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time on FOMO. We'll be eagerly anticipating season 4 and watching for the renewal. I'm going to put a prediction out there. They're going to get it, but yeah, it's going to be a while coming, since they clearly haven't started shooting. And if they start today, it's going to be a bit before we see it. But I'm going to throw that prediction out there, and we'll see you next time on FOMO.
Yeah, I'm predicting that they keep Luke and Vala's show.
We got to put that up there on Polymarket.
All right, we'll start it.
See ya.